Hi friends, and welcome to another Digitone tutorial. This time I want to talk with you about the control all function. Quick reminder what that is. Basically, on the Digitone, if you hold down the MIDI button and then basically just turn any parameter, it will not only affect the track that you are currently on, but basically all tracks that are on the Digitone. So for example, if I'm having this track here, turning down the filter, you can basically hear it on all different tracks. Keep in mind that the control all function doesn't affect trick locked sounds. So basically everything you get from the sound pool and put it on your sequencer, it won't be affected by that. And also just a quick note before we start with the 5 tips, is that you can not only use it on the Digitone, but also on the Digitakt and I think also the Syntakt. So if you have these machines, try it out and now have fun with the 5 tips on what to use control all on. Tip number 1 is to use it on the filter frequency cutoff. I think that's probably the most obvious one, but it's a very nice and very effective way to control the energy levels in your tracks. The example, by the way, that I'm using here is from my track Away, which you can find on YouTube somewhere, I don't know, somewhere up here. I'll link it in this video for you. And the melodic part sounds like this. And now if I hit MIDI and then turn down the filter frequency, you can really hear the energy level getting lower and lower. But if I open it up again, yeah, you can really hear how the energy basically comes back. Just one additional note is that you need to keep in mind which filter types you are using. So basically you can see here, I'm using filter type number 2, I think it is. Yes, it's low pass number 2. And I have it on all the 4 tracks. But you could hear now, for example, if I, let's say on the ARPs, for example, would use a high pass filter, and it would be like this. Whoops, sorry. Like this and like this. And we have the sequence running. And I do that. You can basically hear that it has kind of like a little counter effect. So the high pass filter then of course closes, and that will make the sounds disappear. So yeah, just a thing to keep in mind when you're trying this technique and trying to use it on all of your Digitone tracks. Tip number 2 is the ADSR. And here I mean not only the amp ADSR that most people would probably think of, but also it can be very interesting to use the control all function on the filter ADSR. Let's first try it with the amp one, because it's the most, yeah, again, the most obvious one. You can here really blend the sounds a little bit together. It's a little bit chaotic now. A longer attack time, of course, will bring the sounds a little bit more in the background, while shorter one will bring them again a little bit more in the center. Function no brings us back to the safe state. Let's try it on the filter ADSR. Maybe also increase the filter envelope on all tracks. yeah, super nice, and it's a lot of fun to play around with that. But always, like every time when you jam around with your projects, keep in mind to save them, or to hit function and yes to create a save state, and then you can just basically hit function and no to return to that save state, and yeah, be on the safe side when you really funk up your pattern. It's well worth it, believe me. Tip number 3 is to use drive, or to use the control all function on the drive knob here on the amp page. In this jam you can see that I'm using a lot of drive on all the sounds. I think I cranked it all the way up. Yeah, for all of the sounds it's basically all the way up. And if I now take it away, you can really hear how the energy gets a little bit lower. It's a little bit more subtle than when you do it with a filter, but also has a very nice effect. Let's take a listen. It's also, yeah, you can really hear it that the volume in general gets a little lower. And now if I bring it back, you can hear the sounds coming more to the front. By the way, little bonus tip on this one. A very nice way to fade in your sounds is actually to use the level setting and then fade sounds in and out. So basically MIDI and then turning here the level knob, which is basically the volume fader for each of the 4 tracks on the Digitone. You can dial them out and then back in. So for example, if we have that playing, if I use that now, can kind of like hear the sounds fading out. But now if I turn them back in, I basically have all the sounds coming back in. Also a very nice technique to use for build-ups. I like to use it also on the Digitakt to, when I have a little break session and the melodic stuff is playing, then I can, with this technique, fade in my hi-hat, snare, or basically both hi-hats, closed and open hi-hat, snare, and some other percussion stuff, all at the same time without, yeah, basically having to switch between the tracks all the time. It's very helpful, and yeah, also works very nice together in combination with Control All. Tip number 4 is to use Control All on the Synth A and the Synth B levels here on synth page number 2. This technique is a little special because the previous ones all affect kind of like the energy level and the loudness level of the sounds, but this one really changes the characteristics of a sound. So if we have all of these sounds playing, and now I start to mess around with the synth levels, you can already hear, yeah, that the sounds sound very different. For example, the bass is completely gone now, and here it comes back. Also pretty nice is to then not only use it here on the levels, but also then on synth page number 1 shape a little bit more of the synth parameters. Here it's worth, depending on which sounds you have, just to funk around with it a little bit. So for example, try out what the mix knob does. Then of course here the shape of the sounds. Scroll through different algorithms, and also what's really cool is to just go to the carrier and the 2 operators and turn them all the way down like this, which will, like you can hear, drastically change the shape of the sound. And then go back. Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with that, but I would really try it out before you do it in a live situation or when you're recording, because it can also have some not so good effects, like especially the operators and the carrier. If you detune them, your tracks could be totally out of tune, and this is something, of course, you want to avoid when jamming around. But it's a lot of fun. The last tip number 5, is to use Control All on the send effects and also on the LFO depth, which can be very fun, very chaotic. But let's first check out how it sounds on the send effects. Here again, it's about building up or bringing sounds a little bit more in the fore or in the background. So for example, if you're sending or starting to send a lot of reverb to the sounds, they will be a little bit more in the background. While, for example, when you're starting to send a lot of delay, the frequency spectrum will start to fill up, and now you can also combine it with reverb, also with chorus, of course. Try to turn the chorus all the way up. And now, a little bonus tip, you can go in the global effect menu basically and start to tweak the sounds here as well. I'll make now the decay time very long, turn up the feedback, and then also the reverb that is being sent to the delayed sounds. Yeah, you can get pretty wild with that, but yeah, it's a really nice way to build up tension or to make transitions within your pattern by using the Control All, then send some effects, and then go into the global effect menus and dial in some parameters there. And like I said, also a fun way of shaping the sounds or just experimenting around a little bit is to control the different LFO depth. I usually have both LFOs always used. Sometimes they're just set to some values, but they're not active. Like this one here, for example, depth is at 0, but there are some things active there. And the cool thing is now that I can just basically try to turn the depth on both LFOs. So let's start with the first one. Nice, there's a nice vibrato coming in. Let's go to the second. Okay, the bass and the step sound completely changed now. You can also try it in the negative direction. Let's give that a try now. Or one negative and one positive. Okay, now it gets really wild. And then, of course, like always, function and no to come back. Here again, give it a try before you try to record it and see how it sounds. It's a lot of fun to experiment around with, but can also get really quickly really wild and totally mess up the stuff that you have playing. But yeah, also can bring up some nice results. And yeah, that wraps up my 5 tips for cool destinations on the Digitone to use Control All on. I know there are a lot of more things to try out and a lot of more different parameters to use Control All on. So yeah, I would also be happy to hear your opinion. What do you like to use Control All on? Do you use it at all? Let me know, and yeah, I would be happy to try out some new stuff that I might have overseen in my time jamming around with the Digitone. I hope you liked this video. If you did, yeah, I'm super happy if you subscribe to this channel, as it really helps, and give this video a like. It's really appreciated. And yeah, now I'm wishing you a great day, no matter where you are. Stay safe, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.